Hey guys, thanks for showing up and hanging out with me today. I'm Ori and you're watching Go Outside and Cook. Hey, welcome to Go Outside and Cook. I'm Ori. I'm glad you showed up today. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to make some spare ribs, but I'm going to do them with a whole different kind of glaze than what I usually do, which is typically a standard barbecue sauce, and sometimes I make it different ways. Today I'm going to do a balsamic garlic glaze on these ribs, and we're going to smoke them with some hickory wood out of my offset stick burner. So stick around and let me show you how we get this meal going. Let me show you what ingredients I got. Obviously, I've got a couple of racks of spare ribs, St. Louis cut, pre-cut for me. I've got some minced garlic. I've got some balsamic vinegar, some garlic salt, a little soy sauce, brown sugar, and of course salt and pepper. And that's it. We're going to keep it really, really simple today. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get these ribs prepped, and then we'll go to getting these dudes seasoned up, and we'll get them out there on the pit. Okay, for the prep on these ribs, we're going to keep it really simple. On the back side is where we're going to start, and there's this flap of meat right here. I'm going to get it out of the way. So I'll just trim that off real quick. And then we're going to go ahead and remove this membrane from the back. Now, removing the membrane is not something that's mandatory, but it's something I like to do. It just gives you a better bite. Some people like to leave it on because it does help the meat retain moisture when it's on, but it leaves kind of something to deal with when you're eating it. Okay, so we've already got this membrane stripped off the back. We've got this trimmed out right here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to seasoning. And it's going to be a very simple seasoning. We're going to start with some black pepper. Don't go too heavy with it. I like to use a coarse ground. Just get it as evenly distributed as you can. Don't overthink it. No binder on this, by the way. I'm just letting the pepper stick to the meat. Just like that. Now we're going to put some garlic salt on there. And again, not too heavy. Just a nice coating of garlic salt. Because we want that balsamic garlic glaze really to kind of be the star here. This is just to get a little flavor into the meat while it's cooking, because we're not going to bring that glaze in until the end. So we'll go ahead and flip this over and do the other side the exact same way. Okay, so for our pit configuration, I'm going to dump a completely full chimney of coals in there. And I really want them to be all the way to white ash, because I don't really want smoke from charcoal. So we're pretty much there. I got a couple in there that could probably burn a little bit longer, but it'll be fine. And I'm going to stick a chunk of hickory in there, and I'm just going to let that get going. So we'll get that started really good. Okay, so I got a nice flame going on here now. That's exactly what I want throughout the cook. I want to have a constantly burning flame on my wood as I go through this cook, and this is going to create a different type of gassing inside of the cooking chamber, and therefore you get different results in your meat product. So we can go into the details of that maybe on another video sometime, but this is what I'm looking for. I'm going to close this up, leave the vents wide open. Okay, so while we're letting the pit get heated up and get it brought up to temperature, I'll tell you a little bit about the wood choice that I had today, which is hickory. And I'll tell you why I chose hickory. the wood you choose, depending on the type of cook you're doing, is really, really important. So if you're cooking in an open pit, then there are certain woods that are better for that. If you're cooking in an enclosed chamber like this, there's better woods for that. And then of course, what it is that you're cooking. Is it something that's going to cook hot and fast? Is it something that doesn't take very long to cook? Or is it something like these spare ribs that take quite a while to cook? I'm allotting about 5 hours for these ribs to get done. So when you're going to have something in the smoke for that long, it's really, really imperative that you have the right kind of gassing inside of your pit, and that you have a smoke that's mild enough that it's not going to overpower the meat. Now, I'll tell you a story, and this is really recent. It's one of those epic fails where I knew better, but I did it anyway, and then you get kind of reminded of why you do things a certain way. So we're on a camping trip, me, my wife, and some family, and I brought out my little miniature WSM Weber, and I'm going to smoke a pork butt on this thing. And so I used the wood I had available to me, which was white oak, which is really predominant here in California. Now, I've never cooked on post oak from Texas, and I know they cook that in closed chambers like this for long periods, and it does very, very well for them. I haven't had that experience yet. I haven't cooked with post oak, but I have cooked a lot with white oak. It really shouldn't be used the way I used it. This was a long 8-hour cook that I kept stoking these pieces of oak into this fire, and ultimately there became so much smoke embedded in the bark, it literally stung the eyes to be in the presence of it. We were inside of one of the trailers playing a poker game, and I went out and pulled this meat in, set it up there on the counter, and let it steam out. And in about 20 minutes, everybody's eyes were burning. So it was like I said, an epic fail. The meat in the center was really good net roast. On the outside, it burned the tongue. So it's really important that you use the appropriate wood for your cook. That white oak works really well in a Santa Maria style barbecue. Any oak wood works good, Santa Maria style barbecue. But I wouldn't recommend white oak in a closed pit. Okay, so we've been 2 hours out there on the pit. I'm starting to get a really beautiful color from that hickory smoke. Backyard smells like hickory smoke. It's beautiful. So we're going to go ahead and get our glaze ready. And let me show you what we're using. Now the base of this glaze is going to be a balsamic vinegar. The vinegar I'm using is a 25-year-old aged balsamic. So it's going to be thicker and sweeter than just a standard balsamic. It's a kind of a premium thing. And so you may want to use different quantities of the brown sugar that I'm going to use. I'm going to need less of it for this glaze because of the sugars and stuff that's in this aged balsamic. So let's go ahead and build this glaze. I'll show you how it's done. So I'm going to start with the balsamic. You can see how thick that is. It's almost a glaze already. So I'm going to do 5 tablespoons here of balsamic vinegar. And I'm going to do about a half a tablespoon of soy sauce. And I'm going to put a tablespoon of chopped garlic. That in there. And I'm going to put 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. that all mixed together. We'll make a nice thick glaze. And I'm going to let this just sit out room temperature for a couple of hours. Let it come together. And that's all there is to it. Nothing complex about it. So let's go ahead and go outside and I'll show you what the ribs are looking like so far. Okay, so we're a little over 4 hours into this cook, about 4 hours and 10 minutes. That's what they're looking like so far. I think they're beautiful. So what I did with the balsamic sauce is I went ahead and divided it in half, and then on one half of them I added about a teaspoon of red chili flakes just to give it another layer of flavor. And I added about 2 tablespoons of vinegar into each one because I didn't think they were quite acidic enough, and that seemed to balance it out really good. So let's go ahead and glaze these up. Okay, about 5.5 hours. We're ready to pull these boogers off the pit. So I'm going to plate them up inside and I'll show you what we come up with. Okay, 5.5 hours on the pit. These things set up just perfectly. The glaze has just the right texture on it. So I'm kind of anxious to get into them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and garnish them with some green onion. Just for some color. And we'll go ahead and cut these down and get them plated. Now let's give one a try. Okay, that came out exactly like expected. The glaze, even though it's on the sweet side, when it kicks on, it kicks more to the savory side than it does the sweet side. So it's got actually a very mild, savory flavor to it. I think I would have cooked the ribs a little longer to get them a little more tender than what I did, but if these were competition ribs, they'd have a perfect bite to them. So there you go. Step outside the box, try something a little bit different. Don't be afraid of it. So until next time, go outside and cook.